Hello, this is Dr. Stanley Lang, and welcome to this broadcast. The subject for this broadcast is probiotics, and specifically, what are the best probiotics that one should take, if you should take them at all. And the context of this is my whole person health approach to wellness, health of body, mind, and spirit, today focusing on something that's purely physical, but does affect our minds, which then indirectly affects spiritual life too. But one of the reason I'm focusing on this today is one of the patients that I saw had a complete resolution of all of her reflux esophagitis symptoms that she'd been having for quite a while. And she was on a couple of medicines, and she had been willing to try the probiotic strategies that I recommended for her. So when she came back today, she was completely symptom-free. Now, this is not an uncommon occurrence. I see this very frequently. And so I thought I would share with you just some insights into what I've been seeing over the years and how my conclusions about probiotics have evolved. So I moved all the way from 30 years ago, not thinking that probiotic supplementation was needed, to starting to become open to the concept as more and more companies developed probiotic capsules and tablets, or not tablets, but different kind of encapsulated probiotic substances. And then I started to, over the years, study fermented foods more and more. And in the last few years, I've really concluded that the best probiotics are ones that are in the fermented foods that you can consume. I think that they're much more effective in producing health in the body. And there's several reasons why that probably is true. One of the reasons is that there's so many different species that are in these fermenting foods. And so rather than pushing back at the imbalance in the gut with probiotics that are just a few species in large amounts, that really doesn't push the body back into balance. It just pushes it away from the incredible imbalance that most people have with too many of the bad bacteria and not enough of the good bacteria. But when you have such a narrow spectrum of species that most probiotic capsules have, I don't think that that's as good as the broader spectrum that you get from consuming fermented foods. Basically, there are three main groups of foods that I recommend if you're really serious about replacing the good bacteria in your gut and in repairing your GI tract and the immune system. And this is one of the cornerstones, or one of the legs on the chair, the four main things that I promote for wellness for anybody for any reason, because it's so critical. And so these probiotic sources, the first one and most important is organic apple cider vinegar, which has some very robust bacteria. One of them is called Acetobacter, and they're basically used to living in acid, so getting through the stomach is no big deal. And that is a big deal for the artificial probiotic supplements, because they're basically hothouse plants. They're not used to living in a really harsh environment, whereas the probiotics that come from foods, the active cultures, they're used to living in an atmosphere that's already somewhat hostile. The second probiotic-based food that I recommend is kefir, which is fermented milk. I consider this to be far better than yogurt because the probiotic density is so much higher than in yogurts, and most of the yogurts in the stores are really much let's say processed, and many of them don't have any probiotic cultures left, and the others are sort of artificially changed. It's very easy to learn how to do fermentation of milk in your home, and the advantage of doing that is that for people that have milk intolerance, most people can consume kefir without any difficulty if they go through what we call a double kefiring process, and that's doing the kefiring or the fermenting for 2 days in a row. And you can do a lot of things to the kefir then, which basically it's pre-digested. The lactose, the sugar in it's gone, and some of the proteins that cause distress in people's system. They're pre-digested also. The third group, of course, are the fermented vegetables. Now, the bacteria, what we call the genera, the larger groups, not the species, in kefir and in the vegetables, surprisingly are the same, but the species are different. So you still get a lot of more species differentiation. And so the fermented vegetables, consumed, not cooked, of course, allow you to have even more probiotics that you're getting naturally in the food that you're eating. And when people do these things, so many of their GI symptoms just melt away. Now, there's a lot of other things you need to do to have a healthy GI tract, which I address in other videos. But I encourage you that if you really want to be healthy, consume probiotic-rich foods as your main source of probiotics. Now, if for some reason you don't want to eat these foods, can't eat these foods, you think there's some reason, then probiotic capsules are better than nothing. But these foods are far better than anything that you can stuff into a capsule. So I hope you found this helpful. God bless and have a great day.